Sometimes in agriculture, less is more. Leaving soil untilled can be a good thing. We'll take a look at No-Till November. And Hefty Seed brings new choices to central Nebraska. We'll talk about seed options for next year. Plus, a local FFA program receives national recognition. We will meet our Farm Youth of the Month. Plus, we check out the Gateway Farm Expo this week on Grow. Harvest nears the end here in Nebraska. Still plenty of field work going on as we're in the combine this week. The weekly snapshot from the USDA shows we're about 3/4 of the way through corn and on the last acres of soybeans across Nebraska. Officially, 77% of corn has been picked. That's up from 65% the week before, and 94% of soybeans have been cut. Work has been hampered by the snow that fell last week. Harvest remains just a little bit behind schedule. And the nation's soybean growers are on track to harvest a record crop in the midst of that trade war. The USDA now places the expected soybean harvest at 4.8 billion bushels, the largest ever. Illinois leads soybean production with 688 bushels. Iowa is second. Nebraska not far behind with 345 million bushels in the forecast. Selling soybeans to China has nearly halted, as you know, with the tariff dispute resulting in growing stockpiles and the lowest prices for farmers in more than a decade. Corn production is estimated at 14.6 billion bushels, the second largest American crop on record. Iowa remains the nation's leading corn producer. Nebraska production expected to hit 1.8 billion bushels, with an average here in Nebraska of 195 bushels an acre. As farmers finish up the harvest, they're reminded of No Shave November, keeping the stubble. That also applies in the field with what they're calling No-Till November. NTV's Lauren Coomer has our story.
No-Till November encourages farmers to keep the stubble on their harvested crop fields and improve soil health.
I don't participate in the no-shave, but I do the no-till though.
Darren Niemeyer says he's been practicing No-Till November for close to 20 years, but the campaign is reaching to those farmers who haven't been practicing it, telling them to keep tillage equipment parked away this year.
It catches moisture, it saves the soil, and then there's a lot of scientific stuff as far as getting in and the soil structure. Tilling has a tendency to destroy the soil structure.
Niemeyer saying he's personally seen better overall soil health.
This past year I checked my soil test, compared it to a couple years ago, and organic matter has risen significantly. Organic matter in the soil helps kind of twofold. It's there to, kind of feed the plant to the next year.
A state conservationist says no-till farming is a cornerstone soil health practice, also promoting water quality while saving farmers time and money.
The water will stay there a lot better than what it does on a tilled field. You'll see tilled fields, they'll have ditches and where the water washes the dirt away. And when you no-till, the residue that's left on top of the ground kind of protects the ground and protects that soil. Over the last few years, our no-till yields, or our dryland yields, have risen significantly, and I attribute to a lot of that not only to the hybrids of the corn, but also the practices that we're using today as far as tillage and things.
Conservationists at NRCS encourage producers to not till their fields and to keep crop residue in place to replenish their soil. Lauren Coomer, NTV News, Bladen.
And if you farm, we want to know what tillage practices you employ. Are you mostly no-till, strip-till, or do quite a bit of tillage? Follow NTV's Grow on Twitter to cast your votes. The EPA gives dicamba a 2-year extension, providing control on soybeans. But it's something we talked to an aerial applicator about, saying the regulations and the label requirements have greatly increased over the last couple of years.
Just adhering to those regulations and making sure that you're not crossing the line, that you're following all the regulations, and doing things on label. That's been a big challenge to tackle, but we've been doing a good job of handling it.
Here at the Gateway Farm Expo, they adapt to changing times right now, helping farmers maximize their bottom line.
You got to do what works for you.
Maximizing return on investment. Brandon Novak says that's key to weathering challenging times on the farm.
Put the inputs in that you can afford and still try to grow a good crop.
As the growing season wraps up, egg producers turn their attention to 2019 at the Gateway Farm Expo.
I know seed corn, chemicals, all that stuff's kind of the last thing on a guy's mind when you're just finishing up, and a lot of guys had a lot of success. And there's some guys that got hailed out and got affected by Mother Nature, but you know, saving money in 2019, there's a lot of people out here at Gateway that will help you do that, and it's a good show to be at.
Now in its 49th year, this show changes with the times, focusing on technology and profitability.
And with all of our vendors being ag-related, they're very aware of the current situations in the markets and the whole economy. They're out here really for your benefit to help find efficiencies, maximize profits.
Commodity prices being where they're at today, guys are looking for solutions that they can be more profitable. And
Crop Metrics, an irrigation technology company, says it's about getting the right amount of water on at the right time in the right place.
all of the inputs, not just water, we work specifically with water, but all the inputs that you're just making it as efficient as you possibly can.
Vendors like AgriDeviate and Hawkins Ag promise solutions to make sure inputs are well used.
It's one thing to manage your input costs by properly placing those inputs and properly managing those inputs. It's another to properly leverage your farming system, your tractors, and get implements that do the right thing.
For farmer and seed dealer Brendan Novak, it's time to look at how the year ended and roll the dice on next year.
You're a gambler, and that's what makes it kind of an art, and guys are always willing to take a chance to hopefully they can get a little bit better price come a few months.
And with the election settled now, there's a call for Congress to pass the Farm Bill. The Center for Rural Affairs released a statement saying a new Farm Bill should be at the top of the list as Congress heads back to work. This comes after the expiration of the 2014 Farm Bill with no replacement bill passed. So far, both the House and Senate have written up drafts of a 2018 Farm Bill, but neither have passed. The detasseling crew, whose worker died in a central Nebraska cornfield in the heat this past summer, has been cited by OSHA. The federal organization says Rivera Agra Incorporated, a provider of temporary agricultural labor, failed to protect employees working in excessive heat after a farm worker succumbed to apparent heat-related symptoms while working in a cornfield near Grand Island. The report says the heat index reached 100 degrees on 2 days in July. OSHA inspectors determined the company failed to implement and train employees on a heat injury and illness prevention program, and they have proposed penalties totaling more than $11,000. Tax incentives come under fire at the state capitol as the legislature questions how tax credits for beginning farmers are being used. NTV's Valerie Juarez has more.
Two new reports shedding light on tax credits here in Nebraska and showing that two tax incentives aren't doing what they're supposed to.
This is to bring in some young farmers into agriculture to lease some of the properties that our absentee landowners own here in the state of Nebraska.
As the audit committee is taking a look at the beginning farmer tax credit, those familiar with the program say it can truly be beneficial.
Well, agriculture is an aging industry, and our average age of farmers is stretching up there right now. We need to get the new replacements on board for the future of agriculture and the future of our state.
According to the report, the Beginning Farmer Board allowed farmers to participate multiple times, which is at odds with the bill. But those with the Nebraska Farmers Business Incorporated say they actually haven't seen many clients participate in programs like these.
But then the paperwork that goes into it, especially for a young producer where they maybe don't have anything on a balance sheet, they're like, I don't know what to do, and the cash flow can be a little overwhelming, and just not knowing the opportunities that are out there or the credentials that you need, I think can be a big struggle, especially for young farmers that are trying to get out there in the field.
For one young farmer who recently got started in the business, he says although these incentives can be a bit overwhelming, he wishes there could have been some more help.
I'd be definitely very interested in learning more about it and finding a retired farmer that maybe be interested in giving me the opportunity to work with them.
According to state law, the Legislative Audit Office is required to review these incentives at least once every 5 years. Valerie Juarez, NTV News, Kearney.
A new FFA program wins big at the national level. We'll meet our Farm Youth of the Month later. Up next, more as Hefty Seed expands its footprint in central Nebraska.